So I was recently challenged by one of my colleagues on what is the quickest way to get someone started programming against a large language model. And I said, I think we could do it in 2 lines of code. And that is what we're going to do today. So this will work against any LLM provider, but for easiness sake, I want you to be able to run this locally on your machine. And to do that, we're going to use a tool called Ollama. So you just need to go to ollama.com, and then you're going to click on the download button, and then you can download it for Mac, Linux, Windows. Now, once you've downloaded and installed Ollama, you can just bring up a terminal, and you can see it works by typing in Ollama. Now, to download a model from Ollama, they have a library, so you can go to ollama.com/library, and that will show you all the models that are available for you to download. Now we're going to use the Granite 3.3 model today, so I'm going to type in Ollama pool Granite 3.3, and you're going to see that downloads that onto my local machine. It may take a few minutes because it's quite a large model, but once that's downloaded, you can run it locally, and you can do that by just typing in Ollama run Granite 3.3, which is the model name, and then just whatever your query is. So I am just going to say hi, and then you're going to see hello, how can I assist you? It is that quick to get started. So now that we have the Granite model downloaded and working, we want to be able to program against that. And to do that, I created an MIT style library that makes it super easy to program within 2 lines of code. But we need to be able to install that library. So to do that, we are going to use a package management tool called UV. It's super simple to get installed. You just need to go to astro.sh, and then you go to the docs, and there's an installation instructions. Very, very easy to do. If you're running a Mac, you can just type in brew install UV, and it will install that for you. Now, as you can see, that is downloaded. So I'm just going to type in UVX chuck LLM test Ollama, and that is just going to check that Ollama is working, and we have the Chuck LLM library running. And there you go, you can see it is passed its test, and we are able to work with it. So now we want to interact with the model. So I'm going to ask it a couple of questions. So I'm going to do UVX Chuck LLM ask Granite. So this is the nice thing about this package, is that you can just put ask underscore and then whatever the model name is. So it could be Granite 3.3, it could be GPT OSS, it can be whatever is installed locally on your machine. So in this case, there's a shortcut for Granite. So I'm just going to say ask underscore Granite, and I can say something like, who is Ada Lovelace? And then that will go off to Ollama and ask the Granite model what the answer is. And you see it's doing that sort of nice streaming effect there, because it's a large language model that uses next token prediction, and it's just going token by token by token. So that's great, but it's not programming. And I promised you that we were going to be able to code this in 2 lines of code. So to do that, I'm going to type in UV init, and that is going to create me a new Python project. And I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. So I'm just going to do code dot, and that will open up the initialize project. You can see there that there's a main file that's automatically being created. So if I were to type in uv run main.py, you're going to see it comes back with hello from Chuck LLM demo. So now that our hello world works, I need to install the Chuck LLM package into our Python project. To do that, I'm going to type in uv add, and I'm going to put in chuck-llm, and that is going to add Chuck LLM into my project and into my virtual environment, and I'm going to be able to use that. So now that that's installed, we can come back into VS Code, and I need to be able to import the Ask Ollama Granite function into my code. To do that, I'm going to type in from chuck_LLM. So that is the package we just installed. And by the way, if you want to see that it's installed, you can see in my pyproject.toml in the dependencies, Chuck LLM is now there. So now that we know the package is installed, we can go back to our main.py, we can get rid of the hello world. And what we want to do is import that same ask question we did from the terminal. So I want to import a function called ask_Ollama_Granite. So to do that, I just type in from chuck_LLM, import, and then I'm just going to put in ask_Ollama_Granite. So that's my first line of code. And then the second line of code is going to be print ask_Ollama_Granite. And then we're going to say, who is Ada Lovelace. And now if I come back to my terminal and I run uv run main.py one more time, you're going to see it's not going to stream at the moment. It's going to take a few seconds to come back. It's going to go off to Ollama, call the Granite model, and it's going to come back with who Ada Lovelace is. Notice it's not doing that streaming thing at the moment. It's just returning everything in one go. So as I promised, 2 lines of code to be able to talk to the model. And actually what's happening underneath the hood there is this ask_Ollama_Granite is actually generated at runtime. So the first time I run this, it will actually go to Ollama, discover what models are on your machine, and it will automatically generate the function for you so that you can use that in the LLM. So you don't need to understand the complexity around that. It will just generate the library. That equally means that if I've got any other model in there, then I can just get rid of the Granite part and I can put the model name in there, and then that's going to work for you and you can speak to any model. Similarly, if I want to speak to a different model provider, I can just replace the Ollama part with watsonx, for example, and that command will work against any models running on watsonx. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, I want that kind of streaming effect that you showed me on the terminal. So to do that, we are gonna have to work with a library called async.io. Again, that's automatically installed when you add Chuck LLM, so I can just import async.io. And in there is another function called stream_Ollama_Granite. And again, works in the same way. Rather than using ask, it can use stream. And now what I need to be able to do is work asynchronously, because what's happening when I go token by token and streaming it out, then it's basically an asynchronous call and there's a generator behind that. So to do that, I just need a function, and I can do that by going async def, and we'll call it stream_example. And then I will just comment this out for a second, and I will do an async for chunk in stream Ollama Granite, and then I'm going to write who is Ada Lovelace one more time, and then I just need to print out each chunk as it's generated. So we'll say print chunk end is equal to empty string, and then I'm just going to flush it out. And now all I need to do is call my main function, do an async.io.run, and then pass in the function call that I need to call, stream example. And now if we save that, and we are now running asynchronously, and we're generating it out token by token. Now, one of the fun things to do with LLMs is to be able to take on a persona or give it some sort of special instructions. And now in this case, it is known as a system prompt. Now, a system prompt is always part of a conversation, and it takes a higher precedence over the user prompt. So if you want to be able to say to the model, I want you to always act like a pirate, or I want you to act like as a reviewer or whatever, in order for the model to not lose the context, especially as it gets the conversation gets longer, then one of the things you can do is give those instructions in this special instruction called a system prompt. So to set a persona, I'm going to set my persona as equal to you are a pirate called Jolly Roger, and you always speak in pirate speak. And then if I want to assign that persona to the model, I can just go into my stream Ollama Granite function, and then I can just set the parameter system prompt is equal to persona. So if I save that and ask her who is the Lovelace again, we're now going to find out about Ada Lovelace, but in a pirate persona. And you can see there it's all pirate speak, etc. Of course, I can have more serious examples, such as you are a reviewer, or in the case of agents, which we'll cover in another video, you can then start to tell it what tools it has access to. Now, of course, we've just been doing single prompt question and answer, but what if we want to have multi-turn conversations? Well, actually, we can use a conversation function that is part of this framework. So I'm going to type in async with conversation. Now in this case, I am, rather than doing the ask model, I'm going to set the provider is equal to Ollama. So rather than using those sort of pre-generated functions. And then similarly, I'm going to set the model is equal to a Granite 3.3. And then I'm just going to give this a variable called chat to make it a little bit easier to work with. And again, I'm going to add conversation as part of my imports above. Now that I've done that, I can just ask questions back and forward. So in this case, I'm just going to type in my name is Chris and I'm learning Python. We'll print out the question just so we know what we said there. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to pass that across to the model. So I'm going to say response is equal to, and I'm going to do an await chat.ask, because again, I'm remaining within an asynchronous function at the moment. I'm going to pass in my question, which of course was, my name is Chris and I am learning Python. I'm going to get a response back from the model, and I'll just print out what that response is. So we'll say print response. Now I want to ask a follow-up question, and that follow-up is going to be, what am I learning? And now what we'll do is ask the model again. We'll just save it in response one more time. I'm going to await chat.ask, and this time I'm going to pass in follow-up. Notice that I'm just using chat.ask and I'm just asking a different question. Everything else remains the same. I'm going to overwrite the previous answer. And again, I'm going to print out that response. So now if I run this in my terminal, you see I've given it, my name is Chris and I'm learning Python. The model's coming back saying that is great. Python is fantastic. And then here's the follow-up, you're learning Python programming language, blah, blah, blah. So it's remembered the conversation. And I didn't need to think about that. It was all sort of tidied up within that conversation loop. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, this is super simple, but actually, what when I'm dealing with the more low-level libraries, how does that sort of look there? So to do that, I can just do a client is equal to get client. I'm going to pass in my provider is equal to Ollama, as I did before with the conversation. I'm going to set the model is equal to, and we'll say Granite 3.3 latest, because that's what it's called in Ollama. And again, I'm going to put get client in my imports. We'll get rid of all of the stuff up here because we don't need that. And then if I go to messages, and I'm going to set that equal to an array. So within the messages array, I'm just going to basically have a list of JSON. So the first one is going to be a role. And then in this case, the role is system. So remember that system prompt that we had, you are a pirate, etc. So if I want to, I can set the content. So I'll just have an attribute called content. And I'll say, you are a pirate and you always speak in pirate speak. And then we'll follow up with my user question. So we'll say my role in this case is going to be user, and the content in this case is going to be who is Ada Lovelace. So as you see, that message structure is slightly different, but this is the same structure that you'll deal with when you're working with most LLM libraries. This idea of messages, you state what the role is going to be and then what your content is. So in this case, this is a system prompt, this is a user prompt. And again, if you want to have multi-turn conversations, you would just keep adding to that list. So it would be just, you might have the response from the assistant, role assistant, and then you can just build up the conversation that way. So now I want to ask the model a question. So that is known as a completion. So I'm going to say completion is equal to, and again, I'm going to do an await in this case because it's an asynchronous function, and I'm going to do client dot create underscore completion, and then all I'm going to do is set messages is equal to messages over here, and then I will print out the response, which is going to be completion, and then we'll say response. So if I save that, I come back to my terminal, and we should have a pirate speaking Ada Lovelace one more time. And there you go, I Ada Lovelace, blah, blah, blah. So this is the exact same thing as you saw a little bit earlier. It's a little bit more complicated. It's a little bit more of a low-level API, but this is what you will typically see when you're working with large language models and other libraries. But as you see, the simple sort of VAS structure, stream structure that I had earlier sort of takes away that complexity and helps you there. So now that you know how to work with a large language model very quickly, you can go off and build other things. And then in a future video, I'm going to show you how you can then start working with things like agents.